Today I fucked up by allowing my husband to come to dinner at my boss's house. This actually took place a couple of years ago. I had just gotten a brand new job that I was really excited about. So I was delighted when my boss, who I had been trying to establish a rapport with, invited me and my husband over to her home for dinner. Well, mostly delighted. My husband is, well, he's the sweetest, but he has a history of doing really dumb shit. Because of this, I was worried about him coming along. By the time the day of the dinner arrived, I had become so anxious about it that I actually floated the idea by my boss that I wasn't sure if he would be able to make it. She was clearly taken aback and responded, "Oh no. I really hope he can, I have a dinner for 3 all ready to go." Upon seeing her dismay, I assured her that I was sure he would find a way to be there. Well, we made it over to her apartment on time and things actually started out really well. It was actually just the 3 of us, which surprised me somewhat but made me a little less concerned about my husband, as crowds really tend to bring out his unpredictability. I had just started to finally relax and was a couple bites into a deliciously cooked steak when things took a horrible turn. My boss had just stepped into the kitchen to check on dessert when I noticed something odd out of the corner of my eye. It was one of those things where you know something strange is happening in your peripheral, but you're not sure what. You have to look over and focus your gaze to really comprehend it. I look over at my husband and see him holding his steak in his hand, hovering it just an inch or 2 above his plate. Before I had a chance to fully comprehend what I was seeing and verbalize something that might have saved all of us from the coming horror, he threw his steak, baseball style, across the room straight into the dining room window. It hit the window, making a loud noise, and slowly slid down. Now my husband does dumb shit, I already told you that. But he's not a crazy person. Usually when he does dumb shit I at least understand what he's thinking. There's usually some semblance of rhyme or reason to the dumb shit. In this case I was just dumbfounded. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't wrap my head around what was going on. I stared at him with what must have been the most confused look, and watched as he stared back at me, an expression of utter horror painted across his face. I couldn't make any sense of what was happening, but I also didn't have time to try. I heard the footsteps of my boss, coming to see what the sound was. It suddenly sunk in that it didn't matter why he did what he did. He did it and we were all about to come face to face with a very awkward situation. I could feel the anger flush through my face. For a brief moment I contemplated trying to help my husband get out of this. But no. This was his dumb shit bed and he could lie in it. Not like there was any possible recovery anyway. My boss walks in and sees the steak lying on the windowsill. There's the fucking longest, most awkward pause where we all just sit there frozen. My boss and I are staring at my husband, forcing the ball into his court, as the cringe just hangs in the air like an ocean fog. He finally manages to mutter some incoherent garbage about being a klutz and even tries to get me to back him up. I leave his ass out to dry in the deafening silence. He makes a poor attempt at cleaning the window and retrieves his steak. Mercifully, my boss asks me a question about work and we both dive eagerly into conversation. We all resume the rest of the evening pretending that he isn't there, a sort of unspoken agreement by all that this is the only way to move forward. As soon as we got to the car, my husband turned into a nervous chatterbox trying to explain himself. Turns out the dumbass didn't like the way his steak was cooked, rare, and, get this, he thought the window was open. My husband, ladies and gentlemen, tried to chuck his steak out a 3-story window. He thought that was a reasonable solution to being served an undercooked steak. A year or so later my boss hosted a Christmas party for the company at her newly built home. My best friend, Jenny, was my +1. Too long didn't read, took my husband to dinner at my boss's house. He thought his steak was undercooked, thought the window was open, and thought throwing his steak through the window was a reasonable idea. Note, my husband told this today I fucked up from his perspective a couple years ago, and it was a popular post. Someone suggested I should tell it from my perspective. Hope our discomfort brings a little joy to you fine Redditors. Smile. Edit. Okay guys, I probably overplayed the dumb shit angle. Yeah, he's known for acting without thinking things through, but this one moment does not represent the norm. From my perspective, in this moment, he looked like a loony bin character gone mad. Which is what makes the story so funny in retrospect. Go read his perspective and his actions look at least a little bit less crazy. My husband is a fun-loving, kind husband and father who makes life very fun. Edit 2. No, my husband is not on the spectrum or crazy, although I get that may seem like a valid conclusion if all you know is this one event. The usual dumb shit is more of your everyday impulsiveness, like immediately saying the slightly inappropriate thing that comes to mind. If he would have done that, it wouldn't have shocked me at all. This, of course, shocked me, because he normally doesn't do things that make him look insane. Not sure why some seem to be taking the he often does dumb shit to mean he often does completely insane things, when I feel like I was making the exact opposite point. Oh well. Glad that most of you got some small bit of enjoyment out of your day from the story. Also, we all have our faults. I joke about my husband not thinking things through, he jokes about my preoccupation with what others think of me, etc., etc. This thread has run its course and is now mostly just people abusing the ops husband. Locking. It would have been amazing if he pulled it off only to have the steak splat on the windshield of her car. It would have been more amazing to hear his ridiculous, half-wit explanation to how he ate the entire steak in a matter of a few seconds. I can't wait to hear from the boss's perspective in a few years. Today I fucked up by serving expensive steak to a moron. I knew this sounded very familiar. Thanks for the laugh. Twitch kept me sane throughout my stay. I, like many people in adulthood, have had to deal with the annoyance of overgrown tonsils. From the 3 to 4 times a year tonsillitis, to the sleep apnea that they cause. Personally, I wanted my tonsils gone. After getting tonsillitis for the second time this year, I decided enough is enough. I booked an appointment with my GP, referred to the surgeon and made a date for the surgery. I was warned that I was in for the sorest throat of my life, and that it was going to be agony for a while. Day 1, I was prepped and ready to go, surprisingly not too nervous for my first major surgery. The procedure went well, my tonsils were gone and I was all set to recover in hospital. The pain wasn't too high yet, I was still spaced out from the drugs, so all in all the first night was quite easy. Day 2. 4 AM, I woke up needing to go to the bathroom. I felt like I needed to spit, so I rushed over to the bathroom sink. I spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, not thinking too much of it. I slowly shuffled back to my bed and quickly fell back asleep. 7:30 AM, this time I awoke to a lot of pain. I buzzed the nurse to get my dose of endone and Panadol. I mentioned to her that I had bled a little overnight. She was immediately concerned. She passed me a plastic cup and told me to spit all the blood that comes up from now. I thought that leaking blood would be common as it was when I got my wisdom teeth out. For the next few hours, slowly but surely I was filling up this cup that looked more and more like red wine. It was horrible because the pain was quite high regardless of the painkillers. I couldn't lie down and rest as the blood would go into my stomach. 10 PM, the nurses tried to use an ice pack on my neck and give me countless icy poles to freeze the blood, but nothing was working. I had filled almost 2 cups now and they decided it was time to call my surgeon. They broke the bad news to me and told me I needed to be prepped for surgery again. I was surprisingly okay with it. I remained calm and collected. I went through the procedure again of getting countless needles and being sedated. Fun. Post-second surgery, I was back where I was today, but hopefully no more bleeding. The surgeon informed me that a blood vessel had hemorrhaged around my tonsil area, causing blood to leak. I had to have blood sucked out of my stomach because I had indeed swallowed quite a bit of blood. He told me that this complication only happens once a year for him. Lucky me? Day 3 to 4. The recovery was brutal and painful. I was in bed all day, struggling to get any solids down as the pain was too bad to swallow. However, no complications. Day 5. For anyone who has had the pleasure of having a tonsillectomy, you would know the most painful part about it is waking up from a snooze. I learnt that the best thing to do is get up, drink some water and have some meds ASAP. I was getting out of the shower when I felt a large amount of liquid in my mouth. I leaned over the sink and spat out blood. Here is a picture of the sink. My mum, who had been amazing throughout this whole thing, was luckily around the corner from my home when this happened. So I called her and we decided the safest bet would be returning to hospital. I felt very unwell in the car ride, and I was pale as a ghost. They quickly put an IV in and gave me fluids. After a very long wait, we were advised by my surgeon to return home and come back in if it were to happen again. I returned home and rested up for a few hours. It was around 9 p.m. when I felt the same liquid taste in the back of my throat. This time I knew. I rushed to the bathroom and proceeded to cough up blood. Here's a photo of this time. As you can see, it's a lot more this time around. I don't know if you have ever had the displeasure of coughing up blood, but the worst part about it is just how sticky blood is. It sticks to your tongue, throat and lips, resulting in blood clots getting stuck in your mouth. It's horrible. I called my mum and she rushed over to come get me. Back to hospital again and another smile. I was admitted back to the ward and I stayed overnight. My night wasn't overly dramatic. I bled once around 3 to 4 a.m., but it only lasted 5 minutes. There wasn't much for concern. Day 6. Things were looking okay. I was still in a lot of pain, but I had not bled outside of the little one in the morning. 1 p.m. I was watching shitty daytime TV. As I reached to have a sip of water, I felt that same feeling in my throat come on and it felt heavy quick. I had no time to react, so I grabbed the smoothie cup I had received from my mum and proceeded to spit mouthfuls of blood into it. I was trying to get a hold of my buzzer to notify the nurse. They came in shortly after and rushed to get me a vomit bag. It was coming fast. The nurses were trying to keep me calm and they again put an ice pack behind my neck to try and slow down the bleeding. I kept coughing it up. I started making gagging noises as the blood was sticking and clotting around my throat. I started to feel lightheaded. Within seconds of saying that, I fainted. I woke up seconds later to the ward now being in code blue. I had never seen so many nurses and doctors in one room so fast. There must have been 15 to 20 people in this small room. I had needles going into my arms, an oxygen mask being put on, and multiple nurses and doctors talking to me. Raf, stay with us. Raf, look at me, keep your eyes open. This was the first time in my life that I was genuinely scared for my life. I could overhear that they were trying to get a hold of my surgeon, because once again I needed emergency surgery. I was rushed into theater and they prepped me again. Giving me another 4. There was a delay because my surgeon was finishing up surgery for another patient at another hospital. It was at this moment where I broke down crying. I felt so sick, all I could taste was blood. I was scared, alone. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. All the while I was still coughing up a lot of blood. After some time had passed, the nurse with me was starting to panic. We need to get him into theater now. They kept trying to give me oxygen, but I kept coughing blood into the mask. My surgeon arrived and I was put to sleep. I woke up in unbearable pain and agony. It was the worst pain I had felt since this whole thing began. But that quickly changed when I was given morphine. I rested up and was eventually moved back into the ward and I was greeted by my mum and nan. My poor mother had been through hell. She had only just before it all went down. She was bawling her eyes out the whole time I was going through it all, blaming herself for leaving Frown. Day 7. I got a big sleep and I woke up to my surgeon checking in on me. He was truly sorry for my ordeal, and said I was the worst he had ever seen. The cause was the same as last time, a vessel had opened up and caused the bleeding. All in all I lost 800 milliliters of blood from that ordeal. That's almost 1/5 of total blood. It's crazy to think that if I wasn't in the ward when it happened there was a good chance I could have died. Day 8 to 9. I stayed in hospital. Everyone agreed that it was the best place for me, just in case thunder struck 3 times. I was pretty shook on day 8 still, but as soon as word got out that it went from standard procedure to almost fatal I was receiving a lot of love from my family and friends. Twitch kept me sane throughout my stay. All my streaming buddies reached out and wished me well, which all contributed to making me feel better. Day 10. I am typing to you all from my phone. This is probably the longest thread I have ever written on Reddit, and I don't normally post much, but I wanted to share my story because this will stick with me for the rest of my life. Each day I'm feeling more and more strong. My pain still sucks, but it's getting less severe and I haven't bled since. I'm out of hospital, being very well taken care of by my mother. As cliché as it sounds, this whole experience made me very grateful, not only for my life, but more importantly the doctors, nurses, surgeons, paramedics, etc. that go through so much stress to help us fellow humans live the lives we live. I can't wait to be back in full health, and hopefully I can play some games and get some streams in before I go back to work. Smile? Too long didn't read. I got the procedure of getting my tonsils out. Unfortunately, due to complications, I needed multiple emergency surgeries. After a few days of rest from the second procedure, I started to bleed excessively, which quickly made me faint, turning the hospital into a code red state. I lost a significant amount of blood, and I was prepped for a third and final procedure that saved my life. Edit: a small amount of you requested my Twitch. Here it is, Twitch TV/wristdiplom smile. Thank you so much for all the kind words. I really did not expect this to blow up as it has. Y'all are so nice. Edit 2, you guys have asked for an update, so here it is. I'm feeling so much better, the pain is nowhere near as bad. Today was the first day I woke up and didn't straight away need painkillers. I'm able to eat whole meals with a side of water to help wash it down. My happiness is so high due to the fact that I'm feeling more and more like me again, not this zonked out zombie. I still can't believe how many people this post has affected. My intentions were never for it to go viral, I just wanted to tell my story mostly for me, when it was still fresh in my mind. I could express myself and always look back on this moment in life, but now because of everyone's support and love, I'll look back on it in ways I could never imagined. Well, this story is timely, seeing as I'm laying in bed with tonsillitis right now and just started the process to get my tonsillectomy. I hope you get better soon and you heal wonderfully, and that you get all the milkshakes. Oh no. Hope you're resting and taking it easy. Funny you say that about the milkshakes, it's mostly all I drank in hospital XD. That was wild. When I got mine taken out, I went home after I woke up from surgery. The back of my throat looked like chewed up ramen noodles for a while. How disgusting is it? Don't even get me started on the smell, skeptical. Thanks for the desktop background picture. r/holup. Stupid tonsils. Do you wanna get them removed? I know a surgeon. Wow. That's awful. Glad you're feeling better. P.S. I would mark this as NSFW simply because of the pictures of blood. Will do. Thank you for the tip, smile. Today I fucked up by reading my brother's journal. This did actually happen today, as the clock had just barely struck midnight and Christmas was upon us. Also, this is my throwaway because damn it, I'll not have this following me to my actual account. I was in the laundry room, which doubles as the storage room, where belongings go to die. I saw a book that did not immediately appear to be a journal on one of the shelves, so I grabbed it and flipped it open to the middle. I recognized my younger brother's handwriting and knew I had wandered onto private property, but my eyes lingered a little too long on the page. My brother has been out of the house for several years. He deployed to Afghanistan and got married when he returned to the States. He's always been a little weird, but we, mostly, accept his quirks as just social anxiety and move on. But there I was, in the crack of Christmas morning, holding a journal that he obviously had written during his teenage years. It was one of those journals that ask you questions and you fill in the answers, and of course the question I opened to was, what's something you hope no one ever finds out about you? There, staring at me from the page, was the following sentence: that I had sex with one of the cows. Yes, we grew up on a farm. I don't believe he was speaking merely of a corpulent maiden. I consider myself open-minded, and have prepared myself for various scenarios with my siblings. What if they come out as gay or trans? What if they become addicts? What if they end up in prison? What if they were to join the circus? I have never entertained the possibility of what if they romanced the livestock. Life just doesn't prepare you for random bestiality. TL, Doctor, I found out my brother dabbled in bovine sexual escapades and now I live in a world where I just have to know that and pretend I don't. There is a chance that it was a joke or reference to a joke. When I was in high school, a lady friend wrote me a letter joking about doing crack and a few other ridiculous things that we'd never consider. My mother happened upon it, and saw the word crack underlined. Needless to say, she was not amused and threaded me with a drug test the next day before she realized it was hyperbolic / us being edgy teens. Makes me want to leave random fucked up journals places. Just make up some random stuff. Might even put a return address on the inside, with the name and address of someone I find annoying. Easy there, Satan. Did you read any more entries or were you too much of a coward to see what else was in there? He decided to write that in his journal. That's utterly bizarre. Dear Dairy. He left it out randomly, and the first page just happened to reveal him to be a cowfucker. I'm thinking any self-respecting bovine buffer would be careful to never write that shit down. I think your bro is trying to prank you or whomever reads it, and you should just choose to believe this is the real explanation and never ask him or push for more info. He hasn't been home in a very long time, and these are shelves that are never touched, full of boxes and books and crap that accumulates. I was looking for another book I'd left at home years ago and found this one instead. My luck is extraordinarily terrible to have landed on what I hope is the worst page. I didn't read the whole thing as my mind entered a numb self-preservation state where phonics didn't exist, but unfortunately no one left it out purposefully and there is no hope in the thought of him planning this, as he has been thoroughly absent of late and dismayingly humorless his whole life.